Alright, once you download your file and import it here into Roblox Studio, you're just going to open it up. Everything's labeled. You're just going to open the folder and put it in its respective place. Replicated, server script, everything into starter GUI and then starter pack and starter player scripts. And animations could stay in workspace and you would just upload them with whatever editor you use. Set the 3 lines, publish to Roblox, name it whatever you want, save, and you would save it, grab that asset ID, and for the gun ones, you would come into a gun model, top one animations, and so if that was a fire, you would take that ID and just repaste it in the fire animation. So you can bind whatever animations to whatever gun. Start from the top. Starting from replicated, Um, there's 2 main configs in here, global configs and keybinds. Keybinds is up to you how much you want to change. Fire, aim probably won't change much, but shoulder swap, first person, leaning, if you want to use that or not, flashlight, whatever you want it to. If you want flashlight to be on O, just backspace and then type in whatever keybind you want it to be on. Global configs, pretty much it explains everything that already happens. Camera mode is the main one. Over the shoulder is the default one, which will work with third person. So this is what this secondary config down here is. This is for over the shoulder only. So if you are using third person, this keybind is going to be irrelevant because this is for the over the shoulder third person. So if you're using over the shoulder and you press whatever keybind you have selected here, which I believe is X, yes, then you would go into first person. You'd be able to use first person. That's what this does. If you don't want to use first person with OTS, you just make it false. Force first person always. Just type in first person. If you want to use third person, up to you. These are the names right here. Just copy and paste those in. And then more camera settings. This is for these 4 for third person. How far you want to be able to zoom in and out. If you wanted to show the cursor. Um, so right now it's set up to where you're not, if you're typically if you're not using if you're not actively using the gun, like shooting, reloading, anything, the crosshair doesn't show. But in OTS that might be a little bit different. So that's why I added this in here, because you might want your crosshair to always show. So when you get ready to fire, you know where it would be. So that's what the cursor would be. And prevent zooming. It's up to you if you want to be able to zoom in and out with your scroll wheel when they are in OTS and such. Right now it's live. If it's true, it's locked. If it's false, hide character in first person. If you don't want to hide character, go to false. If you do want to hide it, put on true. Everything that's here is what I would recommend off the start. But that's the point of adding all this. You guys can do whatever you want. If you don't like the camera smoothing, how it drags back a little bit, feels smooth. I know some people don't like it, so you would just turn it to false. And if it's false, you don't have to worry about any of these other ones here. You would just turn it off to false. If you want it on true, you don't want it as strong. Pretty much says everything here is what it is. Go ahead and edit as you want. Camera kick. So this is like the FOV will sort of tween backwards when you shoot the gun. It's like a recoil effect, kickback effect. If you don't want it, turn it to false, keep it on. If you don't want to mess with any of these values, the strength will just overall, it's like a multiplier essentially. So if you want to cut it in half, make it 5, lower than that, higher than that, up to you, just change that value. Controls, obviously aiming, you're going to always probably want to keep on, but maybe not. Shoulder swap if you want them to be able to do that. If you want them to be able to lean, I know some people don't like the leaning, so you'd make it false. If you want to use flashlights or not, if you want to use the manual reload on guns, or you want to just false it or force it off on everything. Weapon modes, obviously, you're going to want on. Crosshair hit markers, everything is going to pretty much want on. The crosshair fade. So if you don't want the crosshair to ever fade out, like when you're not using it, you don't want it to fade out, you would just make it false. The fade delay is how long it will take to fade out. So if you shoot or you finish a reload, it would take 3 seconds. Or if you finish a reload or you finish a shot without doing any next action, it would take 3 seconds before it will fade out and go back to being invisible. It's the same thing for the heat bar fade. If you stop reloading or you stop shooting, there's no action, no current thing going on. It will fade out. If you want it to stay always visible, you just change these two to false. You can change the time it takes. This is how many studs another player has to be within to have all of the effects and sound and stuff rendered for them. And then kill feed, if you don't want to use the kill feed, this little right box on the right hand side of your screen um, that says between players only, not NPCs, who killed who. If you don't want to use it, make it false. The visible time is how long it will stay on the kill feed. So if I killed another player, right now it's set to stay up there for 4 seconds. I could have it stay up there for 30 seconds if I wanted. I could have it stay up there for 1 second, however long you would want. Yeah, we went over keybinds, controller. If you want to switch things up, you can. Um, Sounds, you will go here. Oh, and if you want to change your own effects, so if you want to use a different bullet model, you can either change this one, or when we get down to it later, the blaster config, you can choose your own bullet model per gun if you would want, if you want to change anything. Sounds will be included in a zip file in my Discord. Once you get your whitelist, you'll get the role and you'll be able to download all the sounds. So these, you already have the sounds. You just have to wait for them to. You just have to upload them and then replace the IDs. And these are like the universal sounds that everyone shares, the hit sounds and everything. The movement configs. So for one of the movement animations, you'll have all the animations here. If you want to use your own, you can you just replace your IDs. Configs. Hold the sprint. If you want it to be hold the sprint, you do true. If you want it to be tap the sprint or like a toggle, you do false. You can change your walk speed, sprint speed, and crouch speed here, and then obviously all your keybinds. And then toggle crouch. If you do true, it's a toggle. If you do false, you would have to hold it to be continuously in crouch. Roll duration, your roll speed, animations, animation fade time. Pretty much that. Changing out your IDs. Main thing you're gonna edit are these keybinds, your walk speed, and your roll times here. Server script. Nothing to really, no configs for you in there. Starter GUI, if you want to add extra scopes, if you want to make your own scope, the name doesn't matter, you change it all there. So if you want to make your own scope, so we'll go scope 2. Say we want it to be a red tint. Now we have a red scope. Um, Save that for later. You would go and actually, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. If you want to change the charge bar, you can. This is for alt fire. All the UI is editable to however you want to be, or you can keep it the same. It's up to you. So crosshairs, these are the current crosshairs that we have. If you want to add another one, it's as simple as duplicating this, giving it a name that isn't one of the same in here. So we could just do ball, for example, and change it to whatever we may feel like. Um, Change the image to whatever, reposition it however, as long as the name is something different. Then we'll change that in the config script as well, which I will get to. Then the hit marker as well, if you want to change the default hit markers. So say you want to make your own hit marker for like the circle crosshair, you can. You just add it in here. Um, and then yeah, the rest mainly of the configs is we're gonna be in the guns right here, but there are a few configs here for this more smooth camera. Again, if you don't want it, you could just hit false. Up to you. Smooth camera crying and start player scripts. So let's get to the guns now. So they all have their animations. You can change them per gun as you want. Sounds in the handle. Alt charge. Again, all sounds are going to be included. But if you want to change them, you can. Alt charge, again, is for alt fire, the charging up, and then it would have its own shoot sound. A sound for when you go into first person and come out of it. Change sides, which was pressing C to swap sides. Sound for it. Cooled, which is the reloading. Equip, obviously equip. Flashlight, which is when you turn it on and off. Overheat, which is the um, this is the sound it will play when you are in the manual reload and you miss. Power up is when you hit one of the zones to get the reload power up. Shoot sound, which is just the base shoot sound for the selected gun above. Stun shoot sound is if you have stun, a stun gun, or a stun mode on said gun, you would be able to change the sound for that. Unequip, zoom in, zoom out, main sounds. That's pretty much all the sounds besides, yeah, so let's go into config. Again, there's pretty much explaining everything already, but I'm just going to go over with you the main ones. Damage, change it to whatever you may feel like. 12 I thought was fair, and then damage multipliers here. So it would be a head 1.5 multiplier. So it would be 12 times 1.5. So if it was 2x, if you wanted to do 2x, every headshot damage would now do 24 damage. We'll do 2x of the base damage. Like you see, like hands, upper leg damage only do 0.8 of 12, so I think it would do 10 damage. Team kill, if you want this gun to be able to team kill or not, true or false. Um, so if you want to change the color of the bullet, so say you want this, say this was like a rebel gun, you want to change it to blue, you would just go ahead and change to blue. These are for, so team-based projectile is pretty self-explanatory. If the player is on a team, and you would rather, instead of changing your own colors, you want the bullet to be the same color as the team, you would just do true, and then you wouldn't have to worry about changing bullet color. It would do that. If you want to disable the projectile controller, which will disable the team color and disable the bullet color here, and just use it exactly as it looks in replicated storage. Um, Again, like furthest distance it can hit. Bullet model, which is bullet, like I was saying before, if you want to change the bullet model to something different per gun maybe, all you would do is right here, and then this is what it's going to fire. So all you have to do is, if you were adding your own, if you wanted to make it bullet 2 or whatever, it just has to be its own name in here, and then you come into the config script and make sure this name matches with what is in the effects folder. This is how fast the projectile moves. Now the system is a hit scan system. So that means as soon as you click, the damage will be instant. It's a hit scan system. The projectiles are merely for the visual effect. That's it. You can make it go as fast or as slow as you want. It's not going to have an effect on the actual damaging part of the system. Now these are the locations for the back. So if you want to have something holster, you add an attribute. Which is either back holster, attribute, a boolean. It's either back holster or side holster. And then you would just activate it. If you don't want any holstering, you would just delete both of them. Keep this blast attribute on here though. Attribute on here. If you want to do just the back, or if you want to do the side, you would do that. And then you would edit. You could edit your things here. So it'll be the rotation, X, Y, and Z plus the like the actual position would be on your back. Reveal percent is, so right now the current equip animation I have, it like reaches up and back and then pulls it. So this is the percent of when the gun actually obtains into your hand during the animation. So 85% is what I chose. Animal ammo capacity, this is what your heat bar is your full capacity at 100. So if it's at 100, and this is how much ammo it takes per shot. So if it's your capacity is 100, takes 8 per shot, you're going to get about, what is that, 10, like 15, 14 shots, like 13, 14 shots before you have to reload. Reverse heat bar filling is, so typically it fills from left to right, so it fills from nothing to full. If you do true, it will fill from, or it will go from full to empty. It's up to you. Some Star Wars guns apparently do that, so I added it for this guy. Um, Reload timing. This is if you want to use the like the green time and the gold time from Battlefront. If you don't want to do that, you want to make them force or wait throughout the entire reload, you just do false. Some guns have it, some guns don't in Battlefront 2. It's up to you. It's how long it takes to actually fully reload it. Um, and yeah, auto cool. So it will automatically reload the gun if you haven't shot in this many seconds. Again, pretty much all self-explanatory. Um, yeah, so modes. Um, Lethal is the main one. If you want to add stun, you simply so if you only have lethal, you would just add a comma and then type in stun, and that would be your extra one. There's 4 modes currently. It's lethal, stun, rocket for explosive, and flame thrower. And then your default mode is when you pull out your gun, which mode is already selected, which typically you'd want it to be lethal. And then there's more things about the mode text that pops up. This is pretty default. I don't see you changing too much of it, but you might. This is how long a player is stunned on the ground when they got hit with said stun. The bullet it uses, how fast you can fire between shots, how fast, again, the stun bullet projectile moves, the color of said stun bullet, and then pretty much everything I just said, exact same thing for the rockets, except they have a blast radius and how much damage it does at the center of the radius, time between the shots, same thing, plus the rocket self damage. So if you are able to actually blow yourself up with a rocket. And again, pretty much same thing for flamethrowers, how far it can reach out, the radius, heat per second, startup delay, pretty much the same thing. And then auto, semi, or burst. So auto is obviously you hold down left click and it keeps firing. Semi, you have to click left click every time per shot. And then burst is obviously um, 3 bullets. So and the time between shots is, so for an auto, it would fire 1 shot every 25 seconds. Same thing for semi. You would be able to, you would only be allowed to click 1 shot every 20.25 seconds. And then same thing for burst. If you were doing burst, I'd recommend turning this down a little bit to like maybe 0.1 because it would be still be a burst, fire 3 shots, but it would be fire shot 0.25, fire shot 0.25, fire shot. So if you're doing burst, I'd say turn it down a little bit. This is alt fire if you want to actually use the alt fire, which the current keybind for it I think is down on the scroll wheel button. Yeah, it is. If you want to use it, the damage, charge time, cooldown, what bullet it uses, same thing, projectile speed, the color, travel time. Yeah. Now sniper. If you have sniper is true, no matter when you aim in, regardless of first person or not, it's going to force this scope on. So it's going to force whatever scope. And remember, we were talking about you can make your own scope. You can make as many scopes as you want. Name it whatever you want. It just has to match it right here. and be inside of the scopes folder and extras inside of Blaster. You can name it whatever you want, literally anything. Um, so yeah, Sniper will make sure it forces the scope at all times. Has scope, which would be first person only. So if it has scope, this would be first person only, and then it would use this same scope, and then scope FOV obviously changes how far zoomed in it is when you're actually using the scope. Crosshair, we talked about, you can change your crosshairs. All it has to do is match this right here. So for the E11, we wanted to use the inverted Y type. We just change out this value right here, and it will use this crosshair instead of default. Same thing for hit markers. It just has to match right here. Hit markers and kill markers, both if you want to use your own per crosshair. It just has to match whatever you change it to in here. Normal FOV, aiming FOV, how far the camera is from your character when aiming compared to not aiming. If you want to do bloom, if you want to use recoil, you don't have to. If you want to use the recoil pattern, so you can use the recoil pattern you want. If you set it to false, we're going to end up you're going to use randomized recoil instead. If you have recoil enabled true, so this is your recoil pattern. This would be This would be your first shot right here. This would be your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth shot in the pattern. And then after your eighth shot, it would just go back here and repeat. So it would be this recoil pattern on repeat. If you choose false, you can use randomized recoil instead, and then you have some options here for it. And then obviously pattern jitter, very minimal things, small random changes. Change it to whatever you want. Change it to 0 if you don't want to use it. Camera shake, again, this is a little, they're all a little bit different. The camera shake, smooth camera, and like the dampening. If you want to use them, you can. They have a little bit of a different thing. And multiplier, which would pretty much just boost the whole thing for you. You wouldn't have to change much any of these. The ones you would really change most of the time would be these three. You change the most. And then damage drop off, if you want to do damage dropping off and not when that damage drop off starts, at how many studs, and when it ends, and then the multiplier for it. Multiplier. And then I believe that it's pretty much everything config wise. Oh, and then I'll show you how to set up your if you want to use a new blaster model. So we add our current model, current gun, down here into replicate or workspace. And then our new just model is all. The way I like to do it, I line it up as best as I can already. Typically I just try and get the handle in the same place. And I think this is the A280. Yeah, whatever. That's the name of it. And we'll ungroup this and find, we have to have one part named handle, so this looks like the handle. We're gonna name that handle. And this is the old E11. We need to take all of the sounds plus the barrel and move it into the new handle. And we can get rid of the E11. And then we're going to take the barrel and position it right on the end of the barrel of the mesh. And that this yellow arrow is forward. So this is where your attachment forward is. So you just want to make sure that it's going to be pointing out. So if it starts, when you move it over, if it's facing to the right, you just want to go ahead and rotate it 90. Make sure it's facing forward. And then barrel effect, we will also have to move forward to the front of the barrel for the new mesh. Flashlight effect is where your flashlight would play from. I don't know if this gun has a flashlight, but I'm going to stick it right there. And then we want to, everything should be unanchored, all these extra parts. And then we're going to add weld constraints and weld these to the handle. So part 0 would be the handle. Part 1 would be the parent of this weld constraint. Add a new one here, and here. And then when changing out models, these old weld constraints for the blaster and barrel will become unenabled. So you just want to hit enabled and reparent to the new handle. So enable, reparent to the new handle. And then this should be pretty much set up outside of needing to change your configs, sounds, animations, maybe if you want. And then make sure you have a plugin for tool grip editing and make sure that lines up as much as you want it. Um, I would say that looks pretty good. So yeah, once you have your tool grip edited, everything welded, everything unanchored, all you would have to do is change out your configs if you want, and then your animations, and then your new gun model should be set up and ready to work. I believe I went over everything. I might have forgot a few things. If you have any support, any issues setting it up, or just any questions or concerns, you can open a support ticket in my Discord, and I will help you with anything that may come up.